Guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. I apologize in advance if you hear noise. The hurricane is hurricaning, so that is what it is. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this clip that I came across on X. This is a clip from TikTok. When the clip was put on Twitter, there was no context as to who this person was, what exactly she'd been through, what she was referring to, so on and so forth. So I'm just going to show you the clip the same way I saw it, with no context except for what was said in the tweet, which was something along the lines of, "This makes me feel like I'm delusional," something paraphrasing like that, like "this is crazy," basically. So this is the clip.
Okay, so I research everything before we watch it, but especially this movie. Obviously I heard about it. Yes, we wanted to see it. It has an amazing rating. We prepared ourselves. I didn't know when the scene was going to happen, and I also didn't understand how the scene was happening. I thought it was just several minutes straight of, but it wasn't. It was actually broken up into, like, it would do a flash of that, and then it would do a flash of normal life, and then it would do a flash of the scene, and then it was like very, back and forth. So it was really difficult to avoid it. But obviously my husband and I talk about everything. If we go anywhere or we go see anything, even if it's a concert, movie, an event, we have a game plan. We talk about things like, what if you get triggered? What if I get triggered? Really, the problem isn't what if you get triggered. The problem is, what if I get triggered? Because I don't want my night to be ruined by being triggered by something on a screen. So essentially, what we did was, when the scene came up, when things were happening, he literally closed his eyes and laid his head on my shoulder. Like, if this is my shoulder, this is my shoulder, he like this. And then I would just let him know whenever it was over. And it literally, I will tell you what right now, took nothing away from the story. Him not looking at the screen did not change the storyline, did not change anything. Have a plan and talk about it before you go.
So understandably, much like I think the majority of people who saw this clip based on the comments, I was like, what is going on here? You're going to see Oppenheimer, but also one of you, if not both of you who are going to see it, are triggered by nudity as far as I can understand. But the movie you're going to see is about bombs, so nudity seems like the smallest concern when the scope of the movie is not focused on that. So there are a lot of questions that come up, and this is not a judgment on anyone's triggers at all. It's more the question of something being put out there without the context, whether it's the person who tweeted it, the person on TikTok, whatever. The random person who sees just this one clip has no idea of the context, so is like, what is this? What is the actual underlying message of this TikTok? So a lot of people were noting, like I said, the irony of you're going to see a movie that involves, violence, that involves death, that involves a lot of very heavy subject matter, but what you're worried about, or what your significant other is worried about, is boobs. Now, when you put it that way, it sounds ridiculous, but again, we're not really here to judge anyone's potential trauma, potential triggers, and I'm saying potential because I don't know what the triggers exactly are, aside from the vague understanding of nudity. Either way, I thought that this was interesting because in the comments on Twitter, people were just dragging these people. Initially, I was just kind of like, yeah, this seems a little bit ridiculous. This doesn't make sense to me. Then I looked further and I was like, okay, let me try and understand what is going on here, because it feels like there's some kind of lore I'm not in on. I am missing something. So I went to the TikTok of this particular individual, this woman who posted the TikTok that was then posted on Twitter. And a lot of her content is based on trauma of sorts, but specifically related to porn addiction, which I'm gonna say straight up, I'm no expert on porn addiction. I don't know anything more than the casual average person about porn addiction. I did also read that porn addiction isn't even recognized as a real addiction, which I don't know how legitimate that is, because I've seen articles contesting both sides. So truly, it's a mess out there. I also didn't want to go too far down the porn addiction rabbit hole because I felt like I was going to end up in a place I really did not want to be in. I'm just going to leave that there for the FBI man to sort through. I thought that this was an interesting conversation because the reality is that I feel like there's a lot out there that's being labeled as an addiction, which isn't an addiction. Now, I don't know this couple's situation, so I'm not trying to say what's what about them. Obviously, I'm not there. I don't know what happens between the four walls of their home.
So I got another one of those comments, but this time on IG, and I cannot stress this enough. I promise you, more than anything else I have said, I promise you, if a man tells you he only uses your videos that you send him or you both make together, I promise you he is lying. He does not only use that. If he is self-pleasuring to anything at all, he may use your pictures and your videos, but he more than likely uses them in combination with other porn. Because this addiction is insidious, it always progresses, it always escalates. After he has been with you for a week or a few weeks, you are not solely going to do it for him. He will need further stimulation, more stimulation that you and your body are not able to give him. This is not a sex drive. This is not healthy. This is not normal. This is an addiction that no woman in the world, no matter how gorgeous you are, no woman in the world can compete or fill this void. I'm sorry.
But it did feel very, very strange because in a lot of this particular individual's videos, it seemed like there was, I don't know if it's a projection, I don't know if it's how they just view men and relationships generally that has been affected. So also a quick note, if you noticed in this TikTok where she's responding to the comment saying that basically she knows that this woman's significant other is definitely watching porn and that he's definitely not just satisfied by the videos that she, the commenter, is sending him. I feel like this is irresponsible because if you look at that comment, there's next to no information in there. Like literally she just says, "Oh, I'm so glad my significant other doesn't need this." And immediately the conclusion is, oh, he's lying. Oh, that's not possible. Oh, porn addiction escalates in this way. And I'm like, bro, you have next to no information to make these kinds of conclusions. And I think that's irresponsible because it would be like me telling you, hey, I'm sad. And then from that, you just extrapolate, I don't even know what, and you get to, yeah, you're heavily depressed. We need to put you on medication immediately. It's like we go from 0 to 100 without any information. And on top of that, here, it's also propagating this kind of negative idea that it's almost inevitable that it's going to happen. And it's like, you don't know this man. You don't know the situation. And I think it's unfair to say that for sure that's going to happen. Even if she is sending her significant other pictures, videos, whatever, of, sexual content, why do you know that that's not going to be enough? And also, how do you know that even if porn were involved, it would turn into an issue? There are plenty of people who do watch porn and it doesn't turn into an issue, much like with anything else. So this kind of escalation is also, I don't think, a healthy thing to be putting out there, because I think it's really just making people afraid when in reality, it all depends on the context and the people. You can't just make these big rules. It just seems dangerous to me to put that out there. And to be clear, this argument has nothing to do with being in favor of porn or against porn. It's really just the concept itself neutrally. My own opinion aside about all of that. I think to a certain degree, and I don't know if it's done on purpose or not, it is fear-mongering. And again, without the information. So you're just scaring people without giving them actual facts. But when I went to the comment sections of a lot of the videos, there were like a lot of videos where people were responding, commenting, saying, oh, I had a significant other. He was also addicted to porn. He also said he'd stop and then he didn't. Like a lot of these accounts, and I'm not here to discredit any of those accounts, but it seemed like the overall view of at least this account was very much centered on men are lying, men are addicted to porn, men are all of this and that. And of course, there is a reality where men are lying and there is a reality where men are addicted to porn. It also kind of seemed like we started off from a clear point and then the ball started rolling downhill and a lot of shit just got attached to the ball on the way down, which don't necessarily match up with the initial intent of the ball. I don't know if I should be using the ball as a metaphor anymore. I think we're getting lost here. In that initial TikTok, if you just watched it without the context, the idea would seem like he wasn't looking at the screen where there are breasts on the screen because of her. Like, that's how I interpreted it. It didn't seem like it was a him problem necessarily. Later on, we find out that there's a problem with nudity in porn based on her prior TikToks, so then you're like, okay, then maybe it has something to do with him. But we return to my main point of also, I understand wanting to protect yourself from triggers. I understand all of that, truly. But it also turns to the point of, what movie are you going to be able to watch that has no triggers? Because, okay, granted, not every movie has nudity, duh. If there's nudity in a movie, it doesn't inherently mean it's sexual. Let's first begin with that. Nudity and sex do not always intersect. There are plenty of times where they actually have nothing to do with each other and it's literally just the human body. And if you decide to see it sexually, that's a different story. Again, maybe that's part of the addiction. Who knows? Not me. I've been seeing this make the rounds on Twitter. It's been on my timeline multiple times. And every single time, there's not been one take that has understood where this person was coming from, which then also made me wonder, why is this out there? Like, I'm not trying to say that you can't put your story out there, because that's up to you. If you want to be vulnerable on the internet, more power to you, to an extent, because I do think it starts being dangerous, and I don't even think I'm that vulnerable on the internet, and Lord knows it's put me in some real shit situations, let me tell you, just in the past few months. When I see this, I also wonder, why does this have to be out there? And granted, you're sharing your experience, that's up to you. But at the same time, if you're not putting the entire context out there every single time, there will be a moment where someone will take whatever you said and will just put it out there without the surrounding story. And you kind of wonder, what is the purpose of all of this? If it works therapeutically for you, that's great, that's fine. But at the same time, you also have to wonder, is any of this done on purpose? And again, this is not specifically about this account. This account is just an example because it came up on my timeline. But you have to wonder, if you're not being specific, if you're being pretty vague about everything where it would be extremely easy for a misunderstanding to occur, is it hard for me to believe that maybe this is some type of bait? And in this particular case, I don't think it is, based on the prior videos I've seen. I think this person, this woman, has been through a lot, so I don't think it's fake. But at the same time, I really just wonder, at what point do we decide that it's actually unhealthy for you to put your stuff out there? Because as much as we say that it's therapeutic to, get things off your chest, to be transparent, to be honest, blah, 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 I think a lot of people mix that up with telling everyone everything. Because being transparent and honest doesn't mean you have to tell your following, like with this TikToker of 80,000 people, it doesn't mean you have to tell them everything you're going through. On the contrary, if there were anything I could advise to anyone on social media ever, it's to be as private as possible. Truly, honestly, that is the one thing that I have stuck by, and every so often I might be a little bit more open. The majority of the time when I am open, I let myself sit on it for like 72 hours because that's how serious it gets and how quickly. Anyway, you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think this was posted, kind of vaguely on purpose so people could take it out of context and so it would get interaction? Do you think this is genuine? Either way, don't send hate to this person, because this person is simply just someone who was coming up on my timeline, and I don't think they have ill will as far as I can tell. But regardless, sending hate never does anything, so don't do that. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.